there. It's going to go race K, politics, case in the order of solvency, then warming. Everybody good? Alright. First on the race kit, we're not going for the critique. We can see the all cannot solve for the status quo. Infrastructure does not give them any offense because they do nothing for solve for the structural inequalities in the status quo, and there's still a risk that the plan makes this worse, so they're not going to gain any offense on this flow. Don't let them go back to it, extend any turns that they made in the 2AC. Go to the disad flow. The disad outweighs in terms of the entirety of the case. We have the better internal link to solving all of their attacks. We have the better internal link to fixing the economy because comprehensive integration form. We got up to 1.5 trillion to the US GDP. That's our rates within 13. Evidence is enough not only to get us out of the deficit, but we keep us competitive and extend the Blackwell 11 and tell us 9. Not only are US-India relations key to every foreign policy challenge we face, they're also key to solving terrorism, global warming, proliferation. The risk of nuclear war with India and Pakistan is incredibly high. A small conflict between them could still release hundreds of tons of ash over the course of 4 weeks that could fill up the atmosphere and block the sun. Those tons of ash could come up to 1 billion people around the world on the small impact alone. We have a way on time frame. This also solves for global warming, all-out nuclear war, and terrorism, which means they have the better internal link to solving every advantage of their case. Now, under the line by line, extend that Obama's political capital is high now, but it's fine now. They say the political capital is impotent. This is historically been observed. Their evidence doesn't assume the State of the Union international evidence really get on the question of the expenditure of the political capital, and they say the Republicans must cave on immigration for 2016, but this does not mean that the bill will include a path to citizenship. Boehner said they compromise. They could compromise, but a lack of path to citizenship is coming in their compromise. As long as they don't have a path to citizenship, that means they're never going to solve for competitiveness. And they said the political capital theory is wrong. It's not. It doesn't. Their evidence doesn't assume the current Congress just tends to block Obama no matter what. So they're going to assume it's finite, and the evidence doesn't assume the empirical examples of where presidents have had to seen the political capital on different bills. And they say that XO solves, but this is false. Extend the express times 12 evidence that says that an executive order would not contain a path to citizenship. Path to citizenship is key to maintaining economic competitiveness. Without this, that means the executive order will not solve. Just that means 1.5 trillion will not be added to the GDP in the status quo. And they say that Obama will never have a personal plan. First, he still has to pass a plan, meaning if they blame for it, he will still be perceived, and he still has to sign on both the bills. Perceivable will still result in the loss of political capital, even if he's not pushing the plan. We don't have to win that he's going to push the plan. We still have to win. The perceivable is enough to lose the political capital. And they say that disad is not entrenched into the app. We have a few arguments here. First of all, politics DA is key negative grounds, key to education about how the political system works. Their arguments should be rejected for their argument should be rejected because the politics disad is key to negative ground, and that means that giving them their intrinsic argument is going to limit out ground like this. Every debate is key to education about the topic and transportation topic and the political system on how it works on the political system, and it's just an abusive argument. You should not give them any access to their intrinsic argument, and any risk of the disad means you vote negative because any risk means we have the better internal link to solving any of their impacts with a shorter time frame. I'm going to get to that later on the solvency flow, but we have the better internal link to their hegemony advantage, which is based on economic competitiveness, and when we have 1.5 trillion added to the GDP, that means we're definitely going to have the better internal link there. It's probably a reason you're going to want to vote negative because we have the better internal link. They have no evidence saying that they could ever outweigh that much amount added to GDP, and they're going to have a long-term solvency deficit here, meaning you're not going to give them any evidence there. We have the better internal link to solving for warming because economic competitiveness solves for warming through a green technology and a green economy, meaning that 1.5 trillion to the GDP has the better internal link to solving for anything they have on case, and extend the US-India relations solve for warming. They're a big polluter. India is industrializing right now, meaning that they're going to be polluting more than the US can. They say the transportation sector is key to reducing warming, but India is going to be a bigger offset that they can't solve for. That's an alternative cause, and our presence is key to solving, and our relations with India are key to stop them from polluting. And US-India relations solve for terrorism, and terrorism can access any of their impacts. A terrorist attack would wreck the economy, meaning that we have not only a loss of hegemony, but a loss of competitiveness, meaning they're going to lose both the internal links on that flow, and terrorism is only solved for with US-India relations. They have no other way to solve that. That means the disad solves for the entirety of the case, and not only does it solve, it has a better access to the internal link through terrorism. Let's go to case. First, you go and extend the Sloan 10 car on solvency. The laundry list of reasons it's failed is going to de-incentivize green vehicles. That means they still cause warming because people aren't going to be having green vehicles because there's no longer a gas tax, meaning they're going to switch to the meaning the switch to the VMT tax means no gas tax, meaning they're still going to cause warming because there's no reason to buy an efficient car if you still have your big old clunker that's going to be polluting. And extend the Firstman 12 car. They have a timeline of 30 years for solving this. Is bad for a couple of reasons because one, if they're on their economic competitiveness and their hedge advantage, a timeline of 30 years means they're never going to solve for the short-term economic crash, which means the disad has a better internal link to solving for that economic crash because of the faster time frame, meaning that you're going to vote neg on the time frame there because they do not have ability to solve within 30 years, which means you're going to outweigh and then go on to warming. Extended Kim 8 that it causes more fuel consumption. That means that even if they offset some of the vehicles driving on the highways, they're not going to be able to offset the cause of warming in the amount of cars going and warming in the status quo, because they're still going to be able to buy gas, and that's more fuel consumption. That means they're turning warming. And extend that the all cause of India is only solved by the negative team. We have the better internal link to solving the majority of warming. The U.S. transportation sector. From use of resolution. U.S. transportation sector is not as big a polluter as the entire country of India, who's currently industrializing, means that we have the better internal link to solving the case, means that if you have a timeline of 30 years to solving either of the advantages, that means that you have a quick timeline to vote negative on the disad. Always in terms of case, vote negative. Alright.